The cargo ship Dawn drifted through the empty space between star systems. It was not a beautiful ship. The hull had scratches and dents from years of service. Some parts looked newer than others, patches welded on after small accidents. But it worked, and that was all that mattered to Captain. Sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars through the window. He was a tall man with tired eyes and hair at his temples. 20 years of hauling cargo across human space had taught him patience. His uniform was old but clean, and he kept his ship the same way. "Captain, we're 3 hours from the jump point," said Park from her station. She was the navigator, young and sharp, always double-checking her calculations. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. "Good, how are the engines?" asked. From the engine room below, a voice crackled through the speaker. "Running smooth, Captain, for now, but we need proper maintenance when we get to the station. I'm holding this thing together with spare parts and prayers." Lee was their engineer, a short man with strong hands and oil stains that never quite washed out. He knew every pipe and wire on the ship. When something broke, he fixed it. When parts were too expensive, he made them work anyway. The Dawn carried medical supplies and farming equipment to the outer colonies. It was boring work, but it was honest work. The three of them had been together for 5 years now. They were more than a crew. They were family. "Contact on sensors," said suddenly. Her voice changed, became careful. 3 ships, big ones. They're not human designs." Leaned forward. They had heard rumors about alien ships in this sector. The government said first contact was coming soon. There were supposed to be rules, protocols, peaceful meetings. "Try to hail them," ordered. Worked her console. Broadcasting on all frequencies, standard greeting in multiple languages. She waited. No response, Captain. The 3 alien ships moved closer. They were strange, all sharp angles and dark metal. Each one was 5 times the size of the Dawn. Lights flickered along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at. "Still trying to make contact," said. Her hands moved faster across the controls. "They're not answering." Felt something cold in his stomach. This was wrong. "Get up here now." The engineer came running up the stairs to the bridge, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's happening?" "We might have trouble," said quietly. One of the alien ships fired. A bright beam of energy shot across space and hit the Dawn's rear section. The entire ship shook. Lights flickered. Alarms started screaming. "Engines are damaged," shouted, grabbing onto a railing. "We're losing power." "Grab the communication controls." He spoke slowly and clearly. "This is captain of the human vessel Dawn. We are a cargo ship. We are not armed. Stop firing. You don't want to do this." For a moment there was silence. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was translated by their computer, mechanical and harsh. "Humans, weak. Surrender your ship, become our prisoners." Looked at, what do we do? The alien ships were getting closer. Could see smaller craft leaving them, boarding pods heading toward the Dawn. "They think we're easy prey," said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "They think we'll just give up." "Won't we?" asked. She was scared, they all were. "No," said. He turned to, "How fast can you rig the reactor?" Understood immediately. His eyes went wide. "Captain, that's insane." "How fast?" 10 minutes, maybe 15. Was already moving toward the engine room. Turn 2, send a message to Earth. Tell them what happened here. Then wipe the navigation computer. I don't want these aliens finding our colonies. The boarding pods attached to the hull with loud clangs. Could hear cutting tools starting to work on the airlock doors. "Message sent," said. "Computer wiped." "Good, now go help, I'll slow them down." Walked to the supply locker and pulled out the emergency kit. There were 3 old pistols inside, human military surplus from some war long ago. They weren't much, but they worked. He also grabbed the toolbox and the remaining fuel cells from the emergency supplies. The aliens cut through the first door. They were tall creatures with too many arms and skin like purple leather. They wore armor that gleamed in the dim light. They carried weapons that hummed with power. They walked into the cargo bay carefully, too carefully. They were expecting traps. They were right to expect them. Had rigged fuel cells to the doors. When the aliens moved deeper into the ship, he triggered them remotely. The explosion wasn't huge, but in the confined space it didn't need to be. 3 aliens went down. The others started shouting in their strange language. Down in the engine room worked frantically, helped following his instructions. They were taking the safety controls off the reactor, one by one. If this worked, the reactor would overload. If it didn't work, they would die right here. Almost done, said through gritted teeth. Just need to bypass the final safety. The aliens were moving through the ship now more carefully. They had stopped laughing, heard their heavy footsteps on the deck above him. He set off another trap, another explosion. More alien shouting. Done, called out. Reactors set to blow in 5 minutes. We need to get to the escape pod. The 3 of them ran through the corridors. Behind them, the aliens realized something was wrong. Their shouts became urgent. The escape pod was small and old, barely big enough for 3 people. They threw themselves inside and hit the launch button. The pod shot away from the dawn just as the aliens reached the corridor. Through the small window, they watched their ship. The aliens were trying to leave, their boarding craft scrambling to detach. They weren't fast enough. The Dawn's reactor went critical. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. The alien boarding craft that were too close were caught in the blast. The 3 large alien ships backed away quickly, but one of them had damage along its side. Inside the tiny escape pod and said nothing. They just breathed. They were alive. Activated the pod's emergency beacon and pointed it toward human space. Then he activated the short-range transmitter and aimed it at the alien ships. This is Captain. You attacked a human ship. You tried to take us prisoner. You learned the price. Now go back and tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them what happens when you attack humans. We don't give up. We don't surrender. Remember this. The alien ship stayed where they were for a long moment. Then, slowly, they turned and moved away into the darkness. The escape pod drifted alone in space, beacon blinking, waiting for rescue. Looked at his crew. Good work, he said simply. Managed a weak smile, just shook his head in disbelief. Behind them, debris from the dawn floated in silence, a warning written in fire and metal. The war hadn't started yet, but the first shot had been fired. The message from the dawn reached Earth 3 days later. By then, the entire United Human Coalition government was in emergency session. Admiral Bin stood in front of the council, his uniform perfect, his face hard as stone. They attacked a cargo ship, he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. A civilian vessel carrying medical supplies. 3 crew members barely escaped with their lives. The footage played on the screens. The alien ships, the attack, the explosion. Council members watched in silence. What do we know about these aliens? Asked Counselor Hayes, an older woman with white hair. They call themselves the Empire, said Ambassador Bay, standing next to the Admiral. She was young for a diplomat, but her reputation was solid. They're part of something called the Galactic Trade Federation. We've picked up their broadcasts before but didn't understand them until now. And now they've declared us hostile, Admiral Bin continued. They've issued what amounts to a bounty on human ships. Any vessel they find in deep space is now considered a target. The room erupted in angry voices. Everyone was shouting. Admiral Bin waited for silence. When it came, he spoke again. They think we're primitives. They think we're easy targets. They think one attack will make us hide. What are you proposing? Asked the council chairman. We show them what humans do when attacked, Bin said simply. 48 hours later, every human ship capable of deep space travel was moving. Mining vessels, colony ships, science expeditions, all were recalled to safe zones. And the military fleet, humanity's small but deadly collection of warships, moved out into the dark. Captain Sora commanded the reconnaissance squadron. Her ship, though, was fast and quiet. She was younger than most captains, only 32, but she had spent 10 years in deep space exploration. She knew how to move unseen. Patrol fleet located, her sensor officer reported. 12 ships, standard formation. Sora studied the display. The ships moved in precise patterns like they were following a rulebook, very organized, very predictable. "We don't engage," she told her crew. "We watch, we learn." For 3 days, Sora's squadron followed the patrol. They stayed hidden in asteroid fields and behind gas giants. They recorded everything: how the aliens communicated, how they moved, when they refueled, where their weapons pointed. Sora sent all the data back to Earth every 6 hours. On Earth, Sung was not a soldier. He was a civilian scientist who worked with computer systems. He was skinny, wore thick glasses, and drank too much coffee. The military had asked for his help, and he'd said yes without hesitation. They gave him the alien broadcasts, thousands of hours of communications. "Can you break their encryption?" Admiral Bin asked him. "Give me time," said. He worked for 72 hours straight. His team brought him food he barely ate. Coffee he drank by the pot. The alien code was complex, layered, supposedly unbreakable. The Federation had spent centuries building it. Broke it in 3 days. "It's done," he said, stumbling out of his workspace with red eyes and shaking hands. "I can read everything they send, and I can send messages they'll think are from their own ships." Admiral Bin smiled for the first time in days. "You just gave us the biggest advantage in this war." War asked, "It's a war now." "It will be soon." Ambassador prepared the message carefully. She was in her office, alone, writing and rewriting the words. This had to be perfect. This had to be clear. When she was satisfied, she transmitted it to the Galactic Federation Council, using the coordinates had pulled from the alien broadcasts. The message was simple. "This is Ambassador Bay of the United Human Coalition. Your empire attacked one of our civilian ships without provocation. 3 of our people nearly died. You have declared human vessels to be targets. This is unacceptable. We demand the following: first, full reparations for the destroyed vessel. Second, the arrest and trial of Commander, the officer who ordered the attack. Third, a formal apology from your council. You have 96 hours to comply. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning." The message was received at the Federation Central Council Chamber, a massive station orbiting a neutron star. The council was made up of 12 species, each thinking themselves advanced and civilized. They read the human message. Several council members laughed. "They dare to threaten us," said the representative, a large creature with purple skin and 4 arms. "They are primitives, 1 species against the might of 12. "They destroyed one of your boarding parties," noted a representative, a small being covered in soft fur. "That shows some capability." "A lucky explosion," the snarled. "We will teach them their place." The council voted. 11 to 1, they rejected the human demands. Only the voted to negotiate. The representative sent a message back to his empire. "Send 3 to human space. Show them what happens to species who dare challenge us." 3 began moving toward the coordinates where the Dawn had been attacked. Each had 20 ships, 60 ships total, bristling with weapons, crewed by thousands of warriors. They never reached their destination. Captain Sora received her orders directly from Admiral Bin. "They have sent 3, you know where they're going. Stop them." Sora looked at her crew. Her ship, though, was fast but small. She had 5 other ships in her squadron, 6 ships against 60. "How are we supposed to stop 60 warships?" her first officer asked. "We don't fight fair," Sora said. "We fight smart." The first entered the asteroid field. It was a shortcut to human space, a route through dense rocks and ice. They had used it before. They thought it was safe. Sora's ships were waiting, hidden among the asteroids. They didn't power up their weapons or engines. They just waited, silent and dark. When the ships were deep in the field, Sora gave the signal. Her ships came alive. Missiles launched from hidden positions. Nuclear warheads attached to asteroids detonated. Chunks of rock the size of buildings, pushed by small engines Sora's crew had attached, slammed into hulls. 3 ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. 5 more were damaged. The rest scattered, trying to find their attackers. By the time they organized a response, Sora's squadron was gone, vanished back into the asteroid field. The second tried to avoid asteroids. They took the long route through open space. Safer, they thought. They didn't account for human patience. Sora's squadron had placed mines along their route days ago. Simple devices, really, just waiting for ships to pass close enough. When they came through, the mines woke up and accelerated toward them. 4 more ships died. The rest turned back, confused and angry. The third learned from the others. They moved slowly, scanning everything. They would not be ambushed. They were right, they weren't ambushed. Instead, Sora's ships used weapons that they had never seen. Kinetic impactors, just chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. No energy signatures to detect. No warning. Just solid metal traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. 2 ships were crippled. The rest finally understood. These humans didn't fight like civilized species. They fought like predators. The 3 retreated. They had started with 60 ships. They limped home with 43. 17 ships lost, and they hadn't even seen most of their attackers clearly. Back on Earth, Admiral Bin received the reports. He allowed himself a small smile. Then he activated the communication network. "All human ships," he broadcast. "This is Admiral Bin that came to teach us a lesson. Instead, they learned one. But this is only the beginning. They will come again with more ships, more weapons. We need to be ready." He paused, then continued. "Every human ship is now authorized for Wildfire Protocol. If capture is imminent, if there is no other choice, you are cleared to overload your reactors. Take the enemy with you. We do not surrender. We do not become prisoners. We fight until we win, or we make sure they pay the price." Across human space, captains heard the order. Some were scared. Some were angry, but all of them understood. They had made a mistake. They had attacked humans. And humans, when attacked, didn't retreat. They didn't negotiate from weakness. They hit back harder. In her ship, Captain Sora checked her weapons and prepared for the next fight. In his lab, continued breaking alien codes. In her office, Ambassador prepared more messages. And on their way back to space, the survivors of the 3 carried a message to their commanders. A message written in destroyed ships and dead warriors. "Don't attack human ships. You won't like what happens next." The High Command was not used to losing. They sat in their war room, a massive chamber carved from black stone, and watched the reports with growing fury. 17 ships, growled Supreme Commander. He was the largest, with scars covering his purple skin. 17 ships lost to a species we didn't even know existed a month ago. "They don't fight with honor," said another commander. "They hide and strike from shadows. They use tricks." "They use tactics," corrected, "tactics that work." He stood up, his 4 arms gesturing at the star maps. "These humans are different. We need to change our approach." But the Empire was proud, too proud. Instead of caution, they chose overwhelming force. "Send the Grand Fleet," ordered. "Every ship we have, we will crush them completely." In human space, Captain Sora was running out of tricks. Her squadron had fought 3 more engagements with patrols. They had won each time, but barely. Her ships were damaged. Her crews were exhausted. "Captain," her communications officer said, "priority message from Admiral Bin." The Admiral's face appeared on screen. He looked tired. "Captain, I'm pulling your squadron back. You've done enough." "Sir, we can still fight," Sora protested. "I know you can, but I need you alive for what comes next. They are sending everything they have toward Earth. We need every ship we can get for the defense." Sora felt cold. "Everything? How many ships?" "Best estimate is over 300. Admiral Bin's expression was grim. "They're coming to end this, one way or another." Lieutenant Wu Nam was not on a ship. He was leading a team of commandos on a suicide mission. They had captured a small supply vessel a week ago, killed the crew, and were now flying it deep into territory. Wu was short and stocky, built like a wrestler. His face was from a training accident years ago. His team called him the Hammer because he solved problems with direct force. "We're approaching the command station," said his pilot, a woman named who had somehow learned to fly the alien ship. "Remember the plan," Wu told his team. "We get in, we get the data, we get out. If we can't get out, we make sure they can't use this station anymore." The command station was huge, a floating city in space. It controlled fleet movements for an entire sector. Wu's team, wearing stolen armor, walked through the corridors like they belonged there. It almost worked. A officer stopped them. "You there? What unit are you from?" Wu didn't speak well, but he didn't need to. He punched the officer in what he hoped was the throat. The alien went down gasping. "Run!" Wu shouted. His team sprinted through the corridors. Alarms started blaring. Warriors poured out of doorways. Wu's team fought back with human weapons, guns that used simple bullets instead of energy. Simple but deadly. They reached the data center. Wu's tech specialist, a young man named Park, plugged into the alien computers. "I need 2 minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes," Wu shouted, firing at approaching. "1 minute then." Wu's team formed a circle, firing in all directions. 2 of his people went down, then 3, they kept coming. "Got it," Park shouted. "All their fleet movements, supply routes, everything." "Now we leave." Wu grabbed Park and they ran toward the hangar bay. Only 6 of his team were left. They had started with 15. They made it to their stolen ship. Barely. Got them into space just as fighters launched. "Can we outrun them?" Wu asked. "No," said calmly, "but I can do something they won't expect." She flew straight toward the command station's reactor section and launched every torpedo they had. Then she put the ship into the fastest acceleration it could manage. Behind them, the torpedoes hit. The command station's shields held, but barely. The fighters had to choose, chase the humans or protect the station. They chose the station. Wu's ship escaped into a wormhole. They had the data, and they had footage, lots of footage, of what they'd found on the station. Back on Earth, Sung received the data from Wu's raid. He worked through it quickly, his fingers flying across keyboards. What he found made him go pale. "Admiral," he called Admiral Bin, "you need to see this." The Admiral came to the data center, showed him the files. "These are records of other species," explained. "Species that the conquered. Look at this one. They resisted, so the bombarded their colonies. Millions dead. And this one, they wouldn't trade on terms, so they took their ships and enslaved the crews." Admiral Bin's jaw clenched. "How many species?" "7 that we can confirm. There might be more." "And the Federation allowed this?" "Apparently, as long as you're strong enough, the Federation doesn't care what you do." Pulled up more files. "But here's something interesting. They are still around. They have a voice on the council, but no real power. And according to these messages, they voted against attacking us." "Can we contact them?" "Already working on it." Ambassador sent a carefully worded message to the representative. She didn't expect much. Maybe they would talk, maybe they wouldn't. They responded within hours. "Ambassador Bay," the message began, spoke in a high musical voice. "We are pleased to speak with you. We voted against this conflict. They are bullies who hide behind the Federation's laws. Many species suffer under them, but we are too few, too weak to resist. Your species, however, seems quite capable of resistance. Read the message twice. Then she drafted a response. What if we made the crimes public? What if every species in the Federation saw what they really are? The response came faster this time. That would be interesting, but you would need proof, and a way to broadcast it where the Federation cannot silence you. Smiled, we have proof, and we have someone who can break your communications network. The footage from Wu's raid was edited carefully, not to change facts but to show them clearly. Atrocities, enslaved species, destroyed colonies, it was all there in the own records. Worked for 3 days straight again. He found a way to hijack the Federation's public broadcast network. Every species would see the message. The Federation Council couldn't stop it without shutting down their entire communication system. Ready? Asked. Ready? Confirmed. The broadcast went out across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people saw the truth about the Empire. The Federation Council received billions of messages demanding answers. Several species sent secret communications to Ambassador. They offered support. Not military support, not yet, but information, encouragement, sympathy. They were furious. Their grand fleet accelerated toward Earth. Supreme Commander made a public declaration. The humans will be exterminated, he broadcast. They have insulted the Empire with lies and tricks. We will show the galaxy what happens to primitives who dare challenge their betters. On Earth, Admiral Bin gathered his fleet. They were outnumbered 5-1, maybe worse, but they were fighting for their home, and they had advantages they didn't understand. Captain Sora stood on the bridge of the now repaired and rearmed. Her squadron had grown. Other ships had joined her, volunteers from the merchant fleet, mining companies, even private yachts equipped with weapons. How many ships do we have? She asked her first officer. 87 combat-capable vessels, came the reply, against 300-plus warships. Good odds, Sora said with a grim smile. How is that good? Could be worse, could be 400. Sora checked her weapons one more time. Besides, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them regret coming here. Across human space, every defense platform was armed. Every satellite carried weapons. Every piece of orbital debris had been cataloged and, where possible, fitted with small engines and targeting systems. Earth was going to be the biggest trap in human history. They were coming. They thought they would crush humanity easily. They thought human resistance was just luck and tricks. They were about to learn what humans were really capable of when their backs were against the wall, when they were fighting not for glory or conquest, but for survival, for family, for home. The Grand Fleet entered human space. Their sensors detected the human ships waiting. So few ships, so pathetic. Supreme Commander laughed. They dare to oppose us here, in open space. Fools, all ships attack formation. We end this today. The Grand Fleet moved forward, confident and strong. They didn't see the trap closing around them until it was too late. The Grand Fleet was a sight to see. 300 warships moving in perfect formation, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum power. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the destroyer of worlds, and felt confident. Below him, Earth hung in space, blue and green and beautiful. Soon it would burn. All ships advance, commanded. Target all human vessels first, then the orbital stations, then the planet itself. The human fleet was small, pathetic really. 87 ships against his 300. It would be a slaughter. Then the first mine detonated. It wasn't where expected. It was in the debris field, hidden among thousands of pieces of old satellites and broken space stations. One mine became 10, became 100. Nuclear explosions lit up the darkness. 12 ships were destroyed in the first wave. 20 more were damaged. Evasive maneuvers, shouted. But moving a fleet of 300 ships wasn't like moving one. They bumped into each other, broke formation, scattered. That's when the kinetic weapons fired. From Earth's surface, from the Moon, from Mars, massive launched projectiles. Just metal, accelerated to incredible speeds. No shields could stop solid matter moving that fast. It punched through armor like paper. 6 more ships died. Captain Sora saw her moment. All ships attacked now. The human fleet charged forward. They weren't trying to fight the entire fleet. They were targeting the damaged ships, the confused ones, the stragglers. Quick strikes, then retreat, like wolves hunting. Sora's ship, they fired missiles at a cruiser that had lost its shields. The missiles hit home. The cruiser exploded. Target destroyed, moving to next, Sora's weapons officer reported. Around Earth's orbit, chaos reigned. The tried to reform, tried to respond, but everywhere they turned there was another attack. More mines, more kinetic strikes, more human ships darting in and out. Supreme Commander finally understood. The humans weren't defending Earth. Earth was defending itself. Every satellite was a weapon. Every piece of debris was a missile. The entire orbital space was a trap. "Pull back," he ordered. "Reform outside the debris field." But pulling back meant exposing their engines. The human ships pressed their attack. 10 more ships died trying to retreat. From a hidden position on the Moon, Lieutenant Jin Park watched through her scope. She had lost family when the Dawn was attacked. Her sister had survived, but Jin's parents had been on another ship that destroyed later. She wanted revenge. She commanded a weapons platform, one of 50 hidden in lunar craters. Each platform held a single massive missile, too big to launch from a ship, too powerful for normal combat. "Target the flagship," Admiral Bin's voice came through her earpiece. "All lunar platforms, fire on my mark." Jin locked onto the destroyer of worlds. The flagship was huge, twice the size of any other ship. It had shields that could withstand anything. "Mark," Admiral Bin said calmly. 50 missiles launched from the Moon. They accelerated fast, faster than sensors could track properly. The flagship's defenses shot down 30 of them. 20 more got through. The destroyer of worlds rocked under the impacts. Its shields failed. Its armor cracked. It didn't die, but it was hurt. Felt the ship shake. He had never felt his flagship shake before. It was supposed to be invincible. That's when he saw it. A small human cargo ship, old and patched, flying straight toward him. It was broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain of the Dawn," a human voice said. "You attacked my ship. You tried to kill my crew. This is what you get." Remembered that name, the first ship they attacked, the one that exploded. "Shoot it down," he screamed. But the Dawn was fast, modified, realized. The cargo ship dodged and weaved through weapons fire. It launched every missile it had, not at the flagship's hull but at its engines. The missiles hit. The destroyer of worlds lost power. It drifted helpless. Inside the cargo ship, gripped the controls. Next to him worked the weapons systems. Below them had jury-rigged their reactor again, ready to overload it if needed. "We got him," said. "The flagship is dead in space." "Good," said. "Now we leave. I made my point." The Dawn spun around and accelerated away, disappearing into the chaos of battle. Captain Sora saw the flagship go dark. She broadcast to all human ships. "The enemy flagship is disabled. Press the attack." The human fleet surged forward with new energy. They had hurt the enemy's pride. They had hurt their leader. But there were still many. They had lost maybe 50 ships. They still had 250 more. The battle was far from over. Admiral Bin watched from Earth's command center. He could see the tactical displays. His fleet was winning, but barely, and his people were dying. Every human ship that died took brave people with it. "Sir, the fleet is reforming," his tactical officer reported. "They're preparing for a concentrated push toward Earth." Bin had known this moment would come. He had one more card to play. He picked up the communication device. "All ships," he broadcast. "Wildfire protocol is now active. Any ship that cannot retreat, any ship that is damaged beyond repair, you are cleared to execute." Around Earth, damaged human ships received the order. Their captains made the hardest choice of their lives. A cargo hauler, engines dead, drifted toward a battle group. Its reactor went critical. It took 3 enemy ships with it. A patrol boat, shields failed, hull breached, turned toward a carrier. The explosion damaged the carrier so badly it had to retreat. 5 more ships, 7 more, 10 more. Human vessels dying with purpose, taking enemies with them. They had never seen anything like it. These humans would rather die than surrender. They would rather explode than become prisoners. It was insane. It was terrifying. Supreme Commander was evacuated from his flagship to a secondary command ship. He watched as another human vessel exploded, destroying 2 of his ships. "They're animals," he muttered, "suicidal animals." "Sir, we've lost 90 ships," his second-in-command reported, "and the humans are still fighting." 90 ships, 90, against a primitive species that didn't even have faster-than-light travel until recently. "How many human ships remain?" asked. 53, sir, but their orbital defenses are still active, and they still have more missiles." Looked at Earth. His fleet could still win, probably, but at what cost? He had started with 300 ships. He might have only 100 left by the time they actually reached the planet. And then what? Ground invasion, against a species that booby-trapped their own ships. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander felt doubt. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human admiral," his communications officer said. "Put it through." Admiral Bin's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but steady. "Commander, you've lost 90 ships, I've lost 34. You can keep fighting, you might even win. But it will cost you everything, every ship, every warrior. And even if you destroy Earth, there are human colonies throughout this system. Each one is armed. Each one is ready to die fighting. You'll spend years hunting them down and will kill you one ship at a time." Said nothing. "Or," Admiral Bin continued, "you can leave now. Take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your empire that humans are not prey. We're not weak. We're not easy targets. Tell them what happens when you attack a human ship." The transmission ended. Looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. All of them looked tired. He thought about the species they had conquered before. None of them had fought like this. None of them had been willing to die so completely, so effectively. If they continued, they might destroy Earth, but the human colonies would survive, and they would remember. They would come for revenge, eventually. And now that the galaxy had seen the broadcast about crimes, the Empire had no allies left. "Order the fleet to withdraw," said quietly. "Sir," his second-in-command asked, disbelieving. "You heard me. We withdraw now, before we lose any more ships." The Grand Fleet began to turn around. Slowly, carefully, they moved away from Earth. The human ships harassed them but didn't pursue. More mines detonated. More kinetic strikes hit. By the time they reached the edge of the system, they had lost 120 ships total. Less than half their fleet returned home. On Earth, people watched the alien ships leave. Slowly, carefully, they began to celebrate. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. Admiral Bin allowed himself to sit down. He was exhausted. So many people dead, so many ships destroyed, but Earth survived. Humanity survived. Captain Sara's voice came through on the command channel. "Admiral, should we pursue?" "No," Bin said. "Let them go. They've learned their lesson." In the dawn also sat down heavily, was crying with relief, was laughing, almost hysterical. They had started this war. Now they had helped end it. The battle was over, but the real war, the political one, was just beginning. The Galactic Federation Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other. Some demanded action against humanity. Others demanded action against the chamber had not been this divided in centuries. The representative, a small being named, stood quietly at his podium. He waited for a pause in the shouting, then activated his microphone. "We all saw what happened at Earth," said in his high, musical voice. "They attacked first. The humans defended themselves. Under Federation law, this was their right. They destroyed over 100 of our ships," the representative roared. "They must pay." "You started with 300, replied calmly. "You attacked a species that asked only to be left alone. What did you expect?" Before they could respond, a new presence appeared on the chamber's main screen. Ambassador Bay, representing humanity, had requested to address the council. "Members of the Federation," began. She stood in her office on Earth, wearing a formal suit, her expression neutral. "I am Ambassador Bay of the United Human Coalition. I come to you with a proposal." "We do not negotiate with primitives," the representative said. "Then you are fools," replied bluntly. Several council members gasped at her tone. "Humans did not speak to the council this way. Your empire attacked my people without provocation. You issued bounties on our ships. You declared war on us, and you lost. Badly." The representative turned purple with rage. Continued. "We have evidence which I have already broadcast to the entire galaxy showing crimes against 7 other species. Slavery, genocide, conquest, all violations of Federation law, yet the Council did nothing." "Those are internal matters," said a representative from a large species. "Are they?" Pulled up documents on the screen. "Federation Law, Article 7, Section 3, no member species shall engage in forced labor or systematic extermination of another species. They have done both, multiple times." The council chamber went quiet. Many representatives looked uncomfortable. "Here is my proposal," said. "The Empire will pay full reparations for every human ship they destroyed. They will be placed under Federation monitoring to ensure no more atrocities. And humanity will be given full membership in this council, with all rights and responsibilities that come with it." "Impossible," they shouted. "The alternative," said coldly, "is that humanity declares open war on the Empire. And this time, we won't wait for you to come to us. We'll come to you. We'll teach every species in the galaxy the tactics that cost you 120 warships. We'll make sure everyone knows how to fight the way we do." It was a threat, a clear, unmistakable threat. "Share our knowledge with your enemies or accept our terms." The representative spoke up. "I move that we vote on the human proposal." "Seconded," said a representative from a species that they had oppressed decades ago. The vote took 3 hours of debate. In the end, it passed 8-4. They and their closest allies voted against it. Everyone else voted yes. The Empire would pay. Humanity would join the Federation. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months later, Admiral Bin stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Unity. He wore a new uniform now, one that marked him as a Federation fleet commander, the first human to hold such a position. "It's strange," he said to Captain Sora, who stood beside him as his second in command. "A year ago, we were hauling cargo and mining asteroids. Now we're helping to police the galaxy." "Do you think it will last?" Sora asked. "The peace?" "For a while," Bin said. "But there will always be someone who thinks humans are weak, someone who thinks we were just lucky." Sora smiled. "Then we'll have to remind them." On the training station above Mars, Captain Sora spent most of her time now. She taught mixed crews of humans and aliens the tactics that had won the Battle of Earth. Not everyone liked learning from humans. Some alien officers thought it was beneath them. Those officers usually changed their minds after the first simulation, when Sora's tactics destroyed their fleets in minutes. You fight without honor, a officer complained after one particularly brutal exercise. I fight to win, Sora replied. Honor doesn't matter if you're dead, results matter, survival matters. Slowly, grudgingly, the alien officers began to understand. The humans had something they didn't: adaptability. Humans could look at any situation and find a way to use it as a weapon. They didn't follow rules that didn't make sense. They invented new rules. It was terrifying. It was also incredibly effective. Captain retired from cargo hauling. He had earned enough from the government compensation for the Dawn to buy a small house near the ocean, and visited him often. "Do you miss it?" asked one evening as they sat on his porch watching the sunset. "Flying the ship." "Sometimes," admitted. "But I'm old, I've had my adventures. Let the young people have theirs." "You're not that old," protested. "You're only 52. "I feel 80, said with a laugh. "Besides, they offered me a job teaching at the Naval Academy. I start next month." Smiled. "Teaching what? How to blow up your own ship?" "Among other things," said seriously. "Someone needs to teach them that running away isn't cowardice, that survival is a victory, that sometimes the best weapon is making your enemy think you're helpless." "You'll be good at it," said. Lieutenant Wu Nam also became an instructor, though his specialty was more direct. He taught boarding tactics, close quarters combat, and how to turn any environment into an advantage. "Aliens think their technology makes them superior," he told his students. "They think fancy shields and energy weapons mean they're advanced, but a rock to the head works just as well in zero gravity as it does on Earth. A breach in the hull kills them just like it kills us. Never forget, we're all breathing the same vacuum. We're all dying in the same cold. The only difference is who's smart enough to use that." Sung continued his work with alien computer systems. He had become the Federation's leading expert on information security, much to the embarrassment of species who had spent centuries developing their encryption. "How do you do it?" a computer specialist asked him once, genuinely curious. The war was over and some were trying to learn from their defeat. "I think differently," explained. "You build systems assuming people will follow the rules. I assume people will break them, so I look for the breaks." "That seems dishonest." "That seems realistic," corrected. "The universe doesn't care about your rules, it just is. If you want to survive, you adapt to reality. You don't try to force reality to adapt to you." Ambassador Bay became humanity's permanent representative to the Federation Council. She worked tirelessly to reform the laws that had allowed the to commit atrocities. It was slow work. The council was old and set in its ways, but was patient, and she had allies now, the other species who had suffered and stayed silent. "Change takes time," told her after a particularly frustrating session. "We don't have time," replied. "There are species suffering right now. Every day we delay is another day of pain for them." "Then we work faster," said simply. "But we work smart, like humans taught us." The empire never recovered its former power. The reparations crippled their economy. The monitoring missions limited their military. Most importantly, their reputation was destroyed. No one feared them anymore. Supreme Commander was removed from command. He lived in exile on a remote colony, writing memoirs that no one read. He had learned too late that victory isn't about having the biggest fleet. It's about having the will to use what you have effectively. The humans had taught him that lesson. It had cost him everything. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, a new colony ship prepared to launch. It was called the New, named after the cargo ship that had started everything. Captain stood on its bridge, brought out of retirement one more time for this special voyage. "You sure you want to do this?" Admiral Bin asked him over the communication link. "You earned your rest." "I want to see what's out there," said. "Besides, someone needs to make sure these colonists stay safe." The New departed Earth carrying 2,000 colonists to a new world. Stood at the helm, older now, hair turned white, but his eyes still sharp. Next to him worked the navigation console. She had stayed with him all these years, was below, keeping the engines running smooth. They passed a Federation patrol on their way out of the system. The patrol ship hailed them. "This is Federation patrol ship Harmony. Safe travels new, and remember, any ship that threatens you will answer to the entire Federation." Received replied, "Thank you." He smiled as they entered the wormhole that would take them to their new home. The galaxy was safer now. Not perfect, not peaceful everywhere, but safer. And every ship that traveled between the stars now carried the same warning beacon. A simple message in multiple languages. "This is a human vessel. We travel in peace. But if you attack us, you will regret it. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We fight back, always." Some species learned this lesson from stories, from broadcasts, from history. The had learned it the hard way. They had attacked a human ship, and humanity had struck back with fire. The war was over. Humanity had won. Not through superior technology or bigger fleets, but through determination, creativity, and the absolute refusal to give up. And the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The new jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward new worlds, new adventures, new challenges. Behind them, Earth continued to spin, safe, protected, home. And above it, Admiral Bin watched from his command ship, making sure it stayed that way. Because humans had learned something important from this war. Peace was worth fighting for. Freedom was worth dying for. And no one, no matter how powerful they claimed to be, would ever make humanity kneel. They had tried, they had failed, and they had paid the price in blood and fire. That was the human way. That was the lesson the galaxy had learned. Don't attack a human ship, because humanity always strikes back. Always.